Unfortunately, for many buyers in this market, it has been a bit of a rude awakening to realize just how far their budget doesn't take them. So there are many home buyers who are learning that the kinds of houses and the kinds of areas that they were looking at are really now going to be out of their reach, whether it's due to the increase in mortgage rates or the increase in prices and or the incredible level of competition, which means that most houses end up going around 7% higher than the list price. For whatever reason or combination of reasons, there are many home buyers who are really understandably disappointed and dejected because they feel like their money's not going to get them what they want. While there's no way to wave a magic wand and make that untrue, the purpose of this video is to help people identify some areas where they might be able to take another look and possibly enable that budget to get them most of what they want. So it's really about, well, where can you compromise? One thing you might look at is school district. Where I live, school district is a very, very big driver of value. So think about how important the ratings of the school districts are, or if one school district that maybe you hadn't considered before might actually be a viable option if homes cost less there. That's one thing that you might explore. Another is size. So maybe you have set the criteria at a minimum of 2,500 square feet. What happens if you reduce that to 2,200 square feet? Or you might think about, well, I was considering 2,500 square feet of main floor and second floor. Well, what if you could go a little smaller but had a finished basement? What do you really need the space for? Might that scenario work? So you might be able to look at something that's a little smaller. Amenities. So amenities refers to, does it have a first floor laundry room, something you really want, or a 2-car garage versus a 1-car garage, or a 2-story entrance hall, those kinds of things. Maybe you want to look at that list again and see if there are some things that you might be able to be a little flexible about. Then there's condition. So is the property maybe not in as nice a shape as you'd like? That one takes a little more thinking, because one part of the question is, can you tolerate something that's a little lived in? Doesn't look like it's been really recently gone over, either remodeled or gone over with a fine-tooth comb to really look its best. And the other half of that question is, if you really don't like that, is that condition something that over time and within of the budget that you do have or might be able to reaccumulate in a short period of time, could you bring the condition up to the standards where you could tolerate it? So maybe it's going to be a little bit of sweat equity that you're doing some painting yourself or something like that. So condition is a bit fluid and a little hard to pin down, but something that you really need to consider. Datedness. So a lot of homes might be old and maybe the kitchen or the bathrooms haven't been updated in a long time. But if they're serviceable, they're not in poor condition, even if they're old. And even though you'd like something updated, maybe could you live with them that way for a few years until you are able to refill the coffers and do a remodel? Something to think about. Then there's location, which speaks to a couple different things. One is sort of where it is geographically on the map, which town it is or how far it is from somewhere that you're trying to commute to, so, or which neighborhoods. But the other piece of location is maybe better described as siting. So what if you were looking for a very quiet neighborhood with a cul-de-sac, but you find a house where the house itself would work, but it's on a somewhat busier street? That might be something you would be willing to concede if that's a place where you feel like you could compromise and still get what you want, but for a lower price. And finally, again, back to the concept of compromise. If you are finding your budget doesn't get you what you want, you're going to have to compromise. There's just no way around it. It's a matter of which compromises you can live with and which you can't. You might be surprised. Some things that you might have previously thought were absolute must-haves, maybe they're not. Maybe there are things that you can either live without, or there are things that can be changed or modified or repaired over time, and you find that maybe living with them temporarily for a few years is something that you can think about and that you can consider. So those are some suggestions on maybe how you can get your dollar to stretch a little farther.